Great pleasure now to welcome to the show a man who's written a very interesting book. I think it's going to help a lot of people, maybe women more than men, but maybe not. We'll find out about it. It's called Is He Lying to You? We're joined by the dating detective himself, Dan Crum, today by telephone. Dan, thanks for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
That's an interesting title you have, the dating detective. I know you worked as a polygraph examiner at one point, but you probably didn't think you'd be doing this with that skill, did you, at one point?
I absolutely didn't know. It actually started many years ago. Back in 2001, I was doing a lot of consulting work to companies, and a lot of the people in the companies would bring me their friends and family and ask me to help them with different challenges. And, it turned into being forced to adapt everything that I had learned in this day to, regular people, everyday situations. And someone suggested I write a book about this stuff and start formally teaching it. So, about a year and a half ago, I set off on a journey to try to take everything that I learned and put it into an easy, to understand, usable format that really anybody can benefit from.
I think it's kind of misunderstood, better known as a lie detector test, but the technical term is polygraph. How reliable has that test been over the years? And you always hear, it's inadmissible in a court. I know we're not talking about a legal thing here, but is it pretty accurate now with the technology of today?
I don't want to comment on the accuracy of it, but I will say this, just in general terms, it depends on the type of test somebody would be taking. So a specific issue test where, you're coming in as a murder suspect, the accuracy is very high. I don't know the exact percentages. If you're going into what's called an R&I test, which is like a relevant, where you're asking somebody a lot of questions and you're trying to pinpoint where their area of focus is or what they're lying about, that's less accurate. But to address real quickly, you said the admissibility in court, polygraph, I don't think will ever be admissible in court no matter how technically advanced it becomes, only because unless it's 100% accurate, there's always going to be that reasonable doubt that, you can present to the jury. Hey, anything not 100% accurate, there's the potential that this could be the exception to the rule here. But what is admissible in court are people's admissions during the polygraph test. So polygraph is a great tool. I don't actively do polygraphs anymore, but it's a great tool for elicitation. What it does is it invokes in people that fear of detection. Their concern over being caught in a lie usually gets them to admit to things that they wouldn't admit to had maybe the polygraph instrument not been in the room.
And that's kind of the point of your book, those techniques you learn from doing all those interviews with people. You learn tells, you learn different body motions, you learn the way people talk that can determine, particularly when you apply it to the dating world, is the person you're looking to date telling the truth? That's kind of fascinating.
Absolutely. I would like to share with you guys what they're actually the two biggest signs of deception. And I addressed this in my book in a specific chapter, actually called the two biggest signs of deception. And what I did was I just took the major categories, one being verbal deception, the other being nonverbal physiological deception. And to start with, the biggest sign of physiological deception or nonverbal deception is what I call somebody's sleep points and when they wake up. I'll explain. Let's say you're having a conversation with someone and they're sitting across from you. So as they're sitting down, let's say their legs are crossed. Their sleep point are the parts of their body that are at rest when you're talking to them. So maybe with their legs crossed, it's like, the one leg on top of the other foot on the ground, their back and butt on the chair, and their hands wherever they're placed. Now what you're looking for is when you ask them a targeted question, so you ask them about the area of importance that you're focused on, and what you notice is suddenly those parts of their body that were at rest, those sleep points suddenly wake up. When that happens, it's very typical that the person's lying to you because what happens is the person's body is feeling the stress over that, basically the chance they might be caught in a lie, and they want to release that stress from their body. And the way people release that stress is usually by, moving parts of their body or those sleep points that were previously asleep now suddenly wake up. The other biggest sign of deception is what people say verbally. And the example I'm going to give you now actually applies a lot for women and what men do to them. And it's what's called a guilt twist. And here's how it works. Let's say, a woman asks a man if he's ever had a one-night stand. And the man replies what he says, I can't believe you asked me that. I'm a good guy. And what you notice there is what the guy did is he never really answered your question, first of all. It's called the missing answer. But what he did was he actually twisted the question back onto the woman who asked him. And he was trying to invoke the guilt response there. He wants you to feel bad for asking the question, like, come on, I'm a good guy. And you're actually, accusing me of doing something like that. And the typical response that a woman who just asked a question will have is actually she will feel guilty, number one. Number two, she'll often apologize for asking the question. And number three, she'll probably never bring that topic up again because she doesn't want to get the same reaction. And it's kind of like mission accomplished for that guy because we've then successfully been able to evade the question and get away with basically not having to talk about it at all. So the two things that I would tell people to look for just in a global perspective is when you have a conversation with someone, look to see if parts of their body wake up that were previously asleep, or sleep points wake up when they're answering the question. And then also notice when somebody uses a guilt twist as a response back to you. And notice the fact that usually it contains a missing answer. You never really got a yes or no. There's no real answer to your question. It really was kind of like a twist back on you to make you feel guilty fast.
Now, I got a chance to read through the book, and these are all great techniques to use. How do you determine, though, say you just meet somebody, if it's not just a normal nervousness, that you may not be lying, but you may look like you are? Is there a way to get through that?
Absolutely. I always say that, there's a way you can win, and WIN is an acronym for what is normal. And the first thing you want to do is you don't want to jump in right in with your targeted important questions that you're trying to assess deception on. You want to spend some time talking about easy layup questions. So, you talk about the weather, you talk about movies, whatever, sports, music. And during those questions, you want to see how their body reacts normally. Do they always uncross their legs when they answer a question? Always lean forward? Do they always gesture a certain way? Do they always use certain phrases, or caveats? Or do they always say, that's a great question before they answer everyone? That is what's normal behavior. That's their baseline way of responding to the question. Now, the reason that's important is because what you don't want to do is you don't want to confuse what you know to be deceptive behavior with actually normal behavior. So I told you, you asked a targeted question, have you ever had a one-night stand and you see the guy uncross his legs and lean forward? Now, I would say, look, his sleep points woke up. So that's deception. Unless that's what he always does. If he always uncrosses his legs and leans forward, that's part of his win and what's normal behavior. So you don't want to confuse that with deceptive behavior.
Now, this book is primarily geared for women to talk to men, but does it work the other way as well, or are there different tells when you're dealing with women?
No, absolutely. All humans are both the same. So, this works equally as well for men or women, young or old. And, yes, the book and the topics and the examples I give are targeted towards women and dealing with men. But, men talk to men and men talk to women. And these, different signs, there's over 101 examples of verbal deception and literally over 40 examples of nonverbal behaviors that you can look for and notice in all humans.
Fascinating, just to read some of them. I knew, of course, some of them, but some that you point out in the book, the deceptions, I didn't know. So I think people are going to get a good education by looking through this. And Dan, give out a website. People want to get more information on you or the book.
Absolutely. One of the biggest questions I actually get asked is, what do I do if I can't see the person? What if I'm on the phone, emailing, texting, or chatting? So I actually wrote a follow-up to this book, and it's called The Faceless Liar. Is he lying to you on the phone, email, text, or chat? And if you go to my website, which is lyingbook.com, again, that's lyingbook.com, and you click on Buy Now to buy Is He Lying to You, you actually get an offer to get both Is He Lying to You and A Faceless Liar for the price of one. So you get both books for $14.99. So go to lyingbook.com and pick them up.
Well, with now more people using all the social networking sites, I think that's a great idea because you can't always tell just from what somebody writes, but those some good tips in there as well of maybe you can pick out some deception and emails and texting. But Dan Crum, it's been fun to talk to you for a couple of minutes. The Dating Detective, the name of the book is He Lying to You? And Dan, thanks for being with us. We'll hopefully talk to you again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.